Growing Forward, the initiative started at the beginning of COVID. Me and Ruby and a couple of other friends were just worried about how the global pandemic was going to have an impact on local food security. Ruby has experience in permaculture, I love gardening, and so we're just like, why don't we just start a community garden? And that's what we did, and we set up a Guerrilla garden. We didn't ask permission from the state, but rather traditional owners instead. And yeah, we set up our first garden, and we got so much support from it. The community really loved it. And from then, we've actually set up more gardens. So we've got a network now, so there's 4. Kangaroo Point 1, we've got one in Dunham Park, Quilpa, which is West End, and also Blimber as well, and there's going to be more to come.
Yeah, so guerrilla gardening's it's a form of resistance. So it's occupying space that's unused that should belong to the community. There's all of these policies and red tape that prevent the community from actually accessing the land and using the land to their benefit. So kind of what Going Forward aimed to do was to go into plots that had been largely abandoned or kind of just not really used by the government or by the local community because there's no access to it, and to just kind of like break all of the barriers socially.
For me, regenerative farming is about putting back into the land more than you take out, and again, thinking holistically about how it's not just about producing more food and improving soil health for the sake of growing more crops. It's about creating new habitat and spaces for wildlife, ensuring that our insect populations are still healthy, reducing the amount of chemicals we're putting back into the land so that we have a really complex and resilient ecosystem and healthy biodiversity. And I guess I'm really inspired by the ideas of regenerative agriculture and regenerative farming, but we also need to recognise that none of this is new. Indigenous peoples in this continent have been engaging in regenerative farming practices for tens of thousands of years. And the same is true with a lot of different cultures all over the world. It's actually just this one kind of narrow Western capitalist culture that's dominant in Australia. We've gone down this road of like extractive, unsustainable farming, whereas heaps of communities and cultures all around the world have been doing this sustainably for years in many different ways.